Hi class, sorry I can't be there today. I had some things I had to take care of, but I still wanted to make sure you did get a lesson. So hopefully that you'll understand it, but if not, we will review it when I get back. But I do expect that you take notes during this presentation so that you have a good idea of what we're talking about. So you have learned about nouns, which are PPT, people, places, and things, and we've learned about adjectives, which describe nouns. And so comparatives and superlative adjectives will help you compare nouns. So you'll be able to write stronger sentences and make strong comparisons. So let's do an adjective recap. What are adjectives? Adjectives are words or phrases used to identify or modify a noun. So remember, modify means to describe or to change. So there are words like beautiful, colorful, friendly, circular, German, iron, small, yellow, happy, and fierce. So remember, they're just descriptive words for nouns. So how many categories are there? There's 7. Because what does OSACOM stand for? Those are our 7 categories: opinion, size, shape, age, color, origin, and material. And it seems like you guys have a really good grasp and understanding of OSACOM. You are able to repeat it every time I ask you about it, and you have really good descriptive words for each category. So I think this will be a little bit easier for you. So comparative adjectives. Comparative adjectives are used to compare differences between two objects. Now remember, since this is a recording and you're supposed to be taking notes, you can pause the video so you can write this down. But I'll also post it on your Schoology so you'll have easy access to it. So remember, comparative adjectives are used to compare differences between two objects or two nouns, okay? So like everything in English, there is a formula, and I want to provide that for you. So the comparative adjective formula is a noun or subject plus a verb plus a comparative adjective plus than plus another noun or object. Okay, and we learned that those are called direct objects at the end. So for example, the rock flew higher than the roof. The noun, the subject, is the rock. The verb is flew. Comparative adjective is higher. And the direct object is the roof, right? Because what is it higher than? The roof. Again, remember, you can pause this and take notes if necessary. And again, we will review this later when I return tomorrow. So there are some rules, and you don't necessarily have to write all these rules down. I am going to provide you a worksheet when I return that has these rules for you, but still pay close attention. So the comparative rules, the first one is for one syllable adjectives, add ER to the end. So for example, fat. Fat has one syllable, becomes fatter. Notice there are two T's, F-A-T-T-E-R, fatter. The second rule is for two-syllable adjectives that end in Y, change the Y to an I and add ER. So happy, it's still 2 syllables because it's happy, becomes happier, H-A-P-P-I-E-R. Again, we will review these when I return, so don't stress too much over it, okay? The next one is a little bit more complex and even gives English speakers a little bit of trouble. So we will continue to practice it over and over again. So for two-syllable adjectives not ending in Y and all 3 or more syllable adjectives, use the form more plus the adjectives. So important, that's 3 syllables. Important becomes more important. You will never hear anybody say importanter because it has more than 2 syllables, okay? Remember, if you have any questions, write them down on your notes and then ask me tomorrow and I'll be happy to answer them. So we're going to practice. So we have a picture of a giraffe at the top and a horse at the bottom. The giraffe is blank than the horse. The adjective I want to use is tall. Okay, so tall is one syllable. So the rule for that would make it taller. because it's one syllable adjective. So all we do is add ER. And apologize my misspelling for add. It should be ADD. But it becomes taller. So the giraffe is taller than the horse. The next one, we have a little boy on the top who's smiling, and at the bottom we have a little girl that's crying. So the sentence says the little boy is blank than the little girl. The adjective I want to use is happy, which is happy. So it becomes happier. My comparative adjective would be happier with an IER at the end. And the rule is two or more syllables that end in Y, add I, and add ER. So HAPPIER. The little boy is happier than the little girl. Okay, on the top we have cherries, which I absolutely love, and some delicious red apples at the bottom. So it says the cherries are blank than the apples. The adjective we're going to use is sweet. Sweet, which becomes sweeter, which is a comparative adjective sweeter, because it's one syllable adjective, so we simply add ER. So the cherries are sweeter than the apples. So notice that we're comparing the two nouns, cherries and apples. And we're saying that the cherries are sweeter than the apples. So the apples are not as sweet as the cherries. Here's another practice. On the top we have some cool Nike tennis shoes that are $199, and at the bottom we have some brown boots that are $150. So the sentence says the tennis shoes are blank than the boots. The adjective is expensive. So expensive becomes more expensive because it's expensive. So we have more expensive because it's three or more syllables, so more plus adjectives. And also remember the formula. After each of these we are putting then, THAN. So the tennis shoes are more expensive than the boots. Okay, so that was comparative. That's when we are doing two nouns. We're comparing two nouns only. But when we have more, or we want to say something is the absolute best, we use superlative adjectives. Superlative adjectives are used to express the highest degree of quality. So it's either the absolute best or the absolute worst, okay? So again, we have another formula, and I really would like you to write this formula down, but I will give you a handout that shows you all the rules for each of these and all the formulas. So we have a noun or a subject plus the verb plus the plus the superlative adjective plus the noun or object, a direct object, okay? So we're going to practice this. The example is, the rock is the biggest I have ever seen, okay? So our first noun or subject is the rock. The verb is, it's to be, right, is. The superlative adjective would be biggest. And the reason it's biggest is because of the rules. So just like comparatives, there's very similar rules to superlative, okay? So for one syllable adjectives, add EST to the end. So fat, which we already know is one syllable, becomes fattest. FATTEST. Okay. For two syllable adjectives that end in Y, change the Y to an I and add EST. So example, happy becomes happiest, HAPPIEST. Okay, so it's very similar to the comparative rules, right? Instead of adding ER, we're adding EST. Now for the two syllable adjectives not ending in Y and all three or more syllable adjectives, use the form most plus adjectives. So again, we have important, which is important, which is three syllables, becomes most important. Now I understand we really haven't talked about syllables. I will review it when we get back. But a good way to know about syllables is to look in the dictionary. The dictionary actually breaks up words into their syllables, and I will show you where that is tomorrow. So if you ever are not sure, you can use the dictionary as backup. So remember, dictionaries are our friends. You can use them on the star. It helps you with words you don't know. It helps you with spelling, and now it also helps you with syllables, which will help you with the comparative superlative. And if I'm going too fast, I do apologize, class. It's hard not being able to see your faces, your lovely faces. But we will review this when I get back. This is just kind of to get you thinking about it and learning a little bit about it. So let's practice, okay? Mount Everest in Nepal is the blank mountain in the world. So the adjective I'd like to use is high. So high is one syllable, so it becomes highest. Mount Everest in Nepal is the highest mountain in the world. So the superlative adjective is highest. Because the rule says one syllable adjectives, we simply add est. And notice that it is following the formula, right? It's the plus a superlative adjective. Now we have Death Valley in California is one of the blank places in the world. The adjective I'd like to use is hot. So hot is one syllable, so it's hottest. So my superlative adjective is hottest. And it follows the one syllable adjective rule to just simply add est. So adjective is tall. Comparative is taller. Superlative is tallest. If we have the adjective long, it's longer and longest. Notice both of these are one syllable, tall and long. Now we have the adjective short, like Miss Garcia is very short, right? So comparative, I am shorter than Miss Smith, and I am the shortest teacher out of the ESL department because both Miss Smith and Miss Vargas are taller than me. Though Miss Vasquez might be my same height, so we would be the shortest. So there are irregular forms, and we've talked about irregular forms with verbs, but I want you to know that there are some good irregulars with adjectives, but they're great to use. We use them often, so it won't be that hard, okay? So the adjective good, its comparative form is better. Its superlative form is best, right? So my grades are better than my sister's, but my brothers are the best, okay? For bad, we use worse for comparisons, or for superlatives, we use worse, right? So Texas has worse weather than Florida, but the Northeast has the worst weather, right? So they have the absolute worst. Little becomes less and least, right? So Gabriel has less money than Eric, but Gabrielis may have the least money, right? That's just an example. So then we have much, so that turns into more or most. So how much money do you have? Well, I have more money than Jorge, but Angela has the most money. Okay. Far becomes further or farther, and furthest and farthest. And we'll discuss these two more in depth because it is a little complicated, and these are even forms that English native speakers have trouble with. But just know that further and farther and furthest and farthest are the comparative and superlative for far. So that's just 5 that I really want you to really learn. You're going to need to remember them because they are irregular, but we use them the most. So let's practice. Pluto is the blank planet from the sun. However, every 20 years, Neptune is even blank than Pluto. So the adjective I want to use is far, which is an irregular adjective. So Pluto is the farthest from the sun. However, every 20 years, Neptune is even farther. Okay? So the top one is the superlative form, which is farthest, right? Because it's the absolute last one. However, now we're comparing Neptune and Pluto, so we're going to use the comparative adjective farther. And this sentence is simply stating that in comparison, every 20 years, Neptune is more distance from the sun than Pluto, even though Pluto is the farthest distance. And again, we'll review these over and over as we have been doing with verbs and adjectives and adverbs, because I really want you to be able to write some really strong comparison sentences, and so I really want you to have a good understanding of this. So we will be practicing it. Here's another practice. With 26.5 million people, Delhi, India is one of the blank populated cities in the world. However, with 38.1 million people, Tokyo, Japan is even blank populated than Delhi. Okay, so the top picture is of Delhi, India, and the bottom picture is of Tokyo, Japan. And the adjective I want to use is much, which again is an irregular adjective. So since we're saying that Delhi has the most people, we will use most. With 26.5 million people, Delhi, India is one of the most populated cities in the world. So we use the superlative form most. But now we're comparing. We're comparing Delhi and Japan. So however, with 38.1 million people, Tokyo, Japan is even more populated than Delhi. So we're going to use the comparative adjective more, okay? So here's some quotes using comparatives and superlatives, because in reality we use them all the time. We just didn't know what they were called. We make comparisons all the time. So the top one says, "Well done is better than well said," by Benjamin Franklin. And basically what he's saying is your work, what you complete, is better than what you say. So you may say, I do lots of charity work or community service, but it's actually better to see the work that you've done, to see how much you've helped the community, right? I can say I write a great paper, but it's better to actually write a great paper and show it than just to say it. So that's what he's talking about. The bottom one says, "The best and the most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart." Now, this is by Helen Keller. An important thing to know about Helen Keller is she was blind. So, she is saying that certain emotions like love, right, knowledge, those types of things can't be physically touched. You can't reach out and touch love. So, the best things and the most beautiful are things that we feel, and not with things like money and those types of things that we can touch. So as you see, she's saying that those are the absolutes, right? So the top is comparing. Yes, it's good to say it, but it's better to do it. And the bottom is saying, no, there's no comparison. This is the best. And that's why she uses superlatives. So that ends this mini lesson. I really want you to review it. Take as many notes as you can. It may have finished before the end of class period. If it did, I really want you to go through and write notes, because I'm going to be checking the notes when I come in tomorrow. And I also want you to write down 1 or 2 questions that you have for me so we can review them in class together. And be prepared to really work on these tomorrow. We're going to be making comparisons and making superlative statements and comparative statements. Again, I'm really sorry I'm not there today. I apologize. But I do want to thank you for paying attention. Again, you can replay this many, many times. You can rewind it, pause it, stop it, whatever you need to do. But make sure you have your notes and make sure you have your questions ready for tomorrow. And I will see you during class tomorrow. Bye, guys.